Jailhouse opera singers, getting held up in Mexico over 42 grams of cocaine, general tomfuckery. Really, folks, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to things that you can find on the Davis James Show, some of which we're going to be discussing today. But first, I wanted to announce a theme for the episode today, and that theme is going to be gratitude. Gratitude for me was the biggest shift in mentality. That was the most life-changing moment for me, was when I really transitioned into just living a much more grateful life, because there are plenty of opportunities where I could have easily been dead, and I am still here and incredibly grateful for it. In the spirit of gratitude, I just wanted to share a story of a time where I was in jail, and just kind of get into why I was in jail, what the experience was like, and then we can kind of discuss why I'm so grateful to not be in jail today. So this story started off with my very first DUI. It was my very first experience getting big boy arrested. And I was at this baseball game with my buddy. It was like some AAA. It wasn't even an MLB game. It was a AAA game, and we were there for 4 hours. We were drinking the whole time, just beer, whatever. And then after that, we went to this bar, which was like the big bar in our town that everybody goes to when they want to get fucked up. And we were all like newly 21, so we were just in the spirit of partying, and that was what we were going to do for the night. So we go out there, we get all messed up. I come back to the house. Realized, of course, when I got back to the house that I needed beef jerky, as you do. So got back in the car, headed to the gas station, went in the gas station, got the beef jerky, got back in my car, pulled out of the parking spot, going like a reasonable speed, and then pulled forward like a Formula One driver and plowed my car into one of those yellow poles that they have next to the gas station, like the air pumps, and ended up driving my car up on top of it. So I got arrested for a DUI, and I just so happened to get the strictest judge in the entire state of Michigan. The strictest judge. Famous, actually. Of course, because my toast always falls jelly side down. So I get this judge, and her deal is first time offense always gets jail time. It doesn't matter what the situation was, what the scenario was. If you got arrested for a DUI and it was your first time in her district, you're going to jail, which does not typically happen for those of you listening who are not frequent DUIers. Typically, on your first DUI, you will get probation or whatever. Now, that is, of course, if it's not a brutally terrible DUI. But anyway, so I got sentenced to jail. She sentenced me to 2 weeks in jail, and I think I ended up having to do 12 days or something. I can't exactly remember, but she let me finish out I was in school during this time period, so she let me finish out my school semester before checking myself into jail. So I had to live my life for 3.5 months, basically, thinking that, well, like going about my weeks, knowing that every single day I was getting closer and closer to having to check myself into jail, like I was checking into a Hilton Garden Inn. So finally comes the day where I have to wake up and check myself in. I remember I took a shower for some reason, and I was thinking to myself in the shower, I was like, do I need to be doing this? Is everybody going to smell like shit, or are they going to have me shower when I get in there? I just didn't know. I didn't know anything about the process. I'd been in the drunk tank before leading up to this point, but never actually checked in, full jumpsuit on, the whole 9 yards. I woke up, took a shower. My dad drove me there. And I get in there, and my very first experience was they sit me down. They did the whole movie scene routine where they strip me completely naked and have me bend over and cough and the whole 9 yards. They found my stash, and they sat me down on this bench where I was to wait for somebody to do something, and then they were going to process me in. And while I sat there and waited, they brought in 20 inmates who were all getting taken to the shower area because it was I guess they showered, this particular group of people showered 2 or 3 times a week or something. So they bring these dudes in and they sit them down next to me. And the guy they sit down right directly beside me has a massive gash across his face, like this huge, fresh gash. It wasn't like a scar. It was like somebody had literally just done this to him across his face. Like somebody had just taken a machete and had gone to town on him. And I was thinking to myself, I was told that this was going to be a relatively safe experience, that I was not going to be brutally attacked and murdered in this establishment. But and the other thing to note about this gentleman was that he smelled so bad. I had never smelled a stink like this before, but it was bad. And I was like, "Oh my god." Not only that, not only do I have to die in this place, but I have to die smelling bad. Oh my god. For me, I have a thing about smelling bad in front of people, and for whatever reason, smelling bad while dying to me just seems like a double kill, to be honest with you. But anyway, so they sat me down next to this gentleman, and he kinda looked at me, and we exchanged the proverbial bro nod, so to speak, and we went on my way. But anyway, they checked me into to the jail, and they put me in with the other idiots. They didn't put me in with the worst of the worst, but they didn't put me in with the best either, obviously. So I get put in there, and the way that this pod was set up was it was not like individual cells. It was one gigantic big, the only way I can describe it is like an aquarium, like a big aquarium that was split up into 4 different sections. Excuse me. That was split up into 4 different sections. Top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. Each one of those sections had 60 dudes in there in bunk beds, and I was in the bottom left section. And they took me over there and they put me in my bunk and they introduced me to my bunkmate, who he introduced himself actually as House. He said, "My name is House. You can call me House." And I was like, "It's an interesting government name. How did you come to be nicknamed this name?" And basically what I've gathered at this point was that everybody had nicknames. Every single person in there had a nickname. Mate's nickname was House because he was as big as a house. And he sure as hell was. He was probably like 6'5", maybe like 350 pounds. He was gigantic. Thank God he was on the bottom bunk. He was actually a really nice guy, to be honest with you. I had no issues with House, never did one time while I was there. We were always cordial, and he was a lovely gentleman. But my experience in jail while I was there, I cried the very first day like an absolute bitch, and I had to make sure that nobody saw me, but I didn't get into any fights. There was nothing like that. It was jail. This was not Oz. This was not prison. This was not crazy. So I definitely don't want to give off any illusions that I did hard time, because I definitely did not. But this was my experience. And I remember while being in there learning a few things that was very interesting to me at the time. That one thing was that jail still relies on the barter system, which I thought was super interesting, that you trade whatever for whatever. And that's kind of how you get by. Is if you walk in there with nothing, you can walk out of there as a king. It's super capitalistic. And one crazy thing that happened to me in my experience there, I had a few instances actually, but one thing that was notable was I was dating this girl at the time, and I remember before going in there, like I was dating her, and I was super nervous about telling her. Like I started dating her, and then a month into us dating, I had to check myself into jail, and so I basically had to tell this girl that I was going to be excommunicado for a few days, and I was like, I came up with this idea that I was gonna tell her I was going to Canada for, like, a ski trip, and I wasn't gonna have any service or something. Ridiculous. I ended up ultimately telling her that I was going into jail, and what she was cool with it, which is a red flag, to be honest with you. Probably could have learned something from that, but anyway, while I was in there, I had this guy come up to me, and he goes, "Are you Davis?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Are you dating so and" and I said, "Yes." And he was like, "Don't shoot the messenger, but your girlfriend is cheating on you." And I was like, "What?" And then he walked away. I was like, "What the fuck?" And so I was kind of just like, shocked. First of all, I don't know who this dude is. I have no idea who this person is. And he just came up to me, and I'm in jail. You know what I mean? We're in like orange jumpsuits together, like it's a fucking cartoon. And he comes up and tells me my girlfriend's cheating on me. I was like, this is bizarre. I went back to my bunk just like in shock. I was like, what's happening to me? And my bunkmate House was could tell something was wrong. And he was like, "What's up, dude? Like, you look a little pale." And I calmly explained to him the situation. I was like, "This random dude came up to me and said my girlfriend was cheating on me." And without hesitation, not one single hesitation, House looks at me dead in the eyes and said, do you want me to kill him? Do you want me to kill him?" And, I'd never witnessed such a lovely gesture before. It kinda took me back, and from somebody that was from such a poor background in life to have such a amazing gesture like that, it hit me, it tugged on the heartstrings, to be honest with you, but I said, "Dear God, House, please no. I can't be getting in any more trouble." But I just thought that was a very interesting experience, and an experience that some actually might have quite frequently, but I had never had before, so I took note of it mentally, and it was something that I think is gonna stick with me for the remainder of my life, having somebody offer to end somebody else's life on your behalf. And so that was very interesting, but the reason again that I brought that up was in the name of gratitude, and I tell that story because I can't on a day-to-day basis be more grateful that I am not in jail. Oh my God. For those of you who have never been to jail and are wondering what it's like, it is, for me, it was so boring. That was like it's like you could get all these things done, be like, fold your stuff, make your bed, eat your breakfast, do your workout, this, bing, bang, boom. And it would be like 8 o'clock in the morning by the time you got done. And you'd be like, what the fuck do I do now? And then another thing to confirm is the food is every inch as bad as they make it out to seem on TV or if you've heard about. It is terrible. I lost in 12 days or whatever it was, I lost 15 pounds and I took one number two the entire time that I was there. And that number twos for me, I'm a home base guy. Got to have it at the home base. I think if you walk into a Sunoco or a BP and you're about to take a dump, you are a literal psychopath. But anyway, so I was in jail, and of course, in this particular jail, the bathrooms, the way that the setup was, the stalls were all next to each other, and you had a wall like you would normally have, except the wall was cut off basically at like your rib cage. So you'd be sitting on the toilet and there'd be a wall, but you could see each other's heads. So you wouldn't be able to see like anything below, but you would turn and like you could talk to each other, which was super weird. And I went into the bathroom at 4 o'clock in the morning because I thought that I'd be alone and it'd be the only opportunity that I could take a solo dookie. But I was wrong, and I was in there, and this guy walked in who was like shaving or something. And TMI or whatever, but this, because it was my only one, and it was like at this hour and this food, it was so ratchet that the dude who was shaving, he had to stop me and ask me to flush the toilet because it was so bad. He was like, "Can I get a courtesy flush, bruh?" And I said, it was my first experience in life having somebody ask me to do that. That was the, and so I was like, "I'm sorry, can you get a what?" And he was like, man, you better flush that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I understood the mission. So that's another thing to be grateful for, home base dookies. Let's make that a gratitude, top of the gratitude list today because folks, I'm so happy to not be in jail on a day-to-day basis. Oh my God. I can't tell you what a relief it is to just be able to do whatever you want to do and watch whatever you want to watch and not have people worrying about hitting you or offering to kill somebody for you or throwing their feces at you like a monkey, which some gentlemen did. And so today I am coming to you a grateful man that I'm sitting at this desk talking on this microphone like a wannabe podcaster and not sitting in jail, hoping to God that house doesn't turn on me. So folks, grateful to be here, grateful to present to you episode 4 of Call Me Crazy with Davis James. Thank you again for all the support and listening on the previous 3 episodes. Today we're going to change things up a little bit. We have a few new segments, and I want to start off with a gentleman who was kind enough to present Call Me Crazy with Davis James with their very first call-in. I should say voice recording. We are currently in the process of getting a phone number set up for you guys so that you can call in and share with us some of your crazy stories and all that, which I'm super excited about. But for now, I am having people send voice memos in, and this gentleman, I had been asked very specifically by him to keep his name out my mouth when it comes to this podcast because he apparently has a wife and kids and all that other stupid stuff that he does not want people to have found out about this. And I'm detecting a reoccurring theme with people. I keep asking people to share a story in from a crazy story from their past life or current life or whatever and send it to me. And the recurring theme is that every person that does this says the same thing. Do not say my name. I cannot have my work, my wife, my job, anybody find out about this. I can't have it happen. And it got me thinking, I didn't think about any of that stuff when I started telling these stories. Maybe I should have, because I had all that stuff too. But anyway, I digress. So here is a story about a gentleman who went to Mexico with his boys, as a lot of us do, and I guess he was tasked with procuring some uh, party favors, and things did not go quite according to plan. So let's listen here to this gentleman, who I'm going to call Bruce, tell us a story about his time in Mexico. So let's listen in here.
There I was 24 years ago on spring break in the Dominican Republic with about 25 of my best college friends. At the time, we all had a pretty bad sniffing habit. I was 24 years ago on spring break in the Dominican Republic with about 25 of my best college friends. At the time, we all had a pretty bad sniffing habit. My job was to procure 42 grams of cocaine for a week-long spring break trip, which at the time I enjoyed doing, and it was fun. Not a good idea. Anyway, had about $1,500 on me. Met the guy, got in a car with him, and another guy. They took the $1,500 and put a gun in my back and in my chest and told me to give them the rest of my money. I had another $500, so they took $2,000 from me. But I did get the blow.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much for sending that in. So let's unpack that a little bit. So he said he went to Mexico with 25 of his sort of best friends, which is a huge group to be going to Mexico with, but it sounds like an absolute blast. And he said all of them at the time had a pretty bad sniffing problem, is how he described it, which I love that description. And then he said he was tasked with finding 42 grams of cocaine. 42 grams of cocaine. First of all, why such a specific number? A. B, that's an aggressive amount. And he said he had $1,500 on him, which seems like, I'm not very up to date with prices and stuff like that, but that seems like not that seems like a pretty good deal for 42 grams. But anyway, and then he says that, so he goes to meet up with the guy. God knows how he found this guy in Mexico. He's going to exchange $1,500 for 42 grams. And he gets there, and the guy sticks a gun in his back in Mexico and takes the $1,500 and $500 from him. So robs him, basically. But then he says that he got the blow. So it sounds like, to me, he made the exchange for $1,500 and then just got robbed for $5. So silver linings, talk about gratitude. That theme of the show today. In my heyday, in the throes of my running and ripping, I, to be honest with you, would have just been happy that I made it out with the blow. I wouldn't have even cared about my life, to be honest with you. If I walked out of there dead and still had the blow, I would have been a happy camper. But the fact that you walked out of there with both your life and the cocaine is a miracle. And I imagine you're incredibly grateful to be alive today. But yeah, it sounds like you got robbed for $500. You got the blow, you did the drug deal, and then they took you for an extra $5, which, to be honest with you, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. It's not a bad tip for the guy. I one time was in Mexico, and when you're in Mexico and you're on these resorts, these all-inclusive, and they have the beach access, if you go out onto the beach and just sit there, people walk by like you're at the fair and they're selling elephant ears. They walk by asking, do you want this or that or what, blah, blah, blah. One time I indulged and said, yeah, I want something. And this guy was like, okay, follow me. So I followed this kid to some random house in Mexico, and he took me upstairs, and it was a room filled with I don't know if that was like cartel dudes or whatever, but and they were all just staring daggers at me. And I remember walking back to the beach with the kid. I got what I needed, which was a miracle. And then I walked back to the beach with this guy. And I remember for whatever reason asking him, "Hey man, how just out of curiosity, how old are you?" And he was like 12. And I was like, "Oh my God. I just bought some stuff from a 12-year-old." I was like, this is a stuff's different over there. It just really is. And I bet you that guy who robbed old Bruce for 500 with the gun in his back went home and told his son, probably 12-year-old son, what he did that day for work. And they probably both had a good laugh at your expense. It's just different over there. Different lifestyle. Different lifestyle. Not better, not worse. It could be worse. But anyway, so that's from our boy named Bruce. Bruce, thank you so much for sending that in. I really appreciate it. Guys, that's what I'm talking about. Please send me more voice memos. I love hearing them. And that's what I love. I love hearing people's voices. I love hearing people check in and tell me that stuff. So send me more of that. I love that type of deal. And folks, that kind of segues into the next little bit here that I want to get into, which is just a check-in. And following along with the gratitude thing, I was thinking to myself this morning, what was I doing 3 years ago on this date before I made the decision to change my life, before I turned things around? What was I doing 3 years ago, and how does my schedule differ from an average day for me today? And so we're going to break down what a day in my life looked like back in the day and what that looks like now and how things are a little bit different. So back in the day, folks, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I was running and ripping, I would wake up probably around 6 a.m. because I couldn't really sleep all that well. I'd wake up. First thing I would do is assess the damage. Really just kind of see, what did I buy? Who did I message? Where did I throw up? Where did I pee? All these things. And then I would immediately be like, I got to feel better about anything. I would drink a beer just so that I could throw it up, because I would, of course, get sick in the morning. And then that way my stomach would be used to the alcohol and I would drink 3 or 4 beers to just feel better. Then I would wake up and figure out what I was going to do about money, whether I was going to call out for work that day or if I was going to go to work that day or what I was going to do. More times than not, I would just call off work and stay home. And if that was the case, then I would DoorDash more alcohol, throw something on the TV, and then just scroll until the DoorDash got there, then drink until I would pass out for a few hours, wake up probably around 4 or 5, and then just hit it hard until 3 o'clock in the morning when I would wake up and start the process again. And then during that in there, we'll mix in some different substances and DoorDashes and whatever. So that really towards the end was what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. And it was just not fun at all. And that's really like what it's just so crazy sitting here thinking about, like, that was legitimately like my work schedule and what I would do as a career, which there's not a whole lot of growth opportunity in that career. So and thinking about it today and how I do things differently, obviously I cut out drinking. So that was the first step. And with that simple decision, today my life looks very different. And so I'm not going to count today, but let's just look at an average day. I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, same time actually, and very interesting. But these days I go for a 4 mile run. I do 650 push-ups every single day. I make 3 pieces of content to start my day, just as a baseline, 3 videos. And then from there, I figure out what other content I'm going to film that day. If I need to film a podcast, if I need to do whatever, reach out to some brands, and then I'll head to the golf range or simulator and work on my game for more content. And then I'm able to cook my wife food, take care of stuff around the house for her. And I think as I'm telling all these different things and pointing out differences in what my life looks like today, I think the biggest difference for me is just my mentality. And I woke up every day hungover, fucked up, sick, thinking that the world owed me something. That I just feeling sorry for myself, feeling bad, that woe is me. Why didn't somebody send me $1,000 today? But just victim, woe is me mentality. And the biggest difference now is that I just live every day being grateful to be alive and live every day with the thought of like who can I help today? How can I help somebody today? And that's been the biggest shift overall, even more than the drinking. I'm not gonna sit here and say that the quitting drinking wasn't the best thing in the world for me, because it was, but almost moreover than drinking was this mentality shift of just being thankful that I get to do these things, that I get to wake up, that I get to work. I think a big thing that's lost on our generation is this gratefulness to be able to work and choose where you work and why you want it. Not everybody gets to be able to work, and gets to choose what they want to do. Or if you don't like what you do, go do something else. That's the beauty of living where we live. And so I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm grateful to get to do all these things with you guys and for you guys. And I'm grateful I get to be able to entertain and to help out and to make your day a little bit brighter where I can. Yeah, that's just a little fun, I think, check in of like what a difference 3 years can make. And that's the other thing, folks. If you're worried that you're behind in life, it literally takes 3 years to completely change your shit around. Honest to God. Honest to God. If you are not happy with where you are in life, it only takes 3 years' time and you could be a completely different person. 3 years ago, I was almost homeless, covered in a vomit soaked mattress with no job, no money, no nothing. Today, I have a career, a wife, money in the bank. Yeah, it's amazing. 3 years, that's all it takes, folks. It could be even less time than that. So if you're truly not happy, let this very moment be the moment that you decide to do something about it, because you can, and it's really not that difficult. So, folks, that is a little before and after check in. But in the spirit of that, I had a fun idea. Actually, I think the first person that brought this up to me was my producer. But a fun little idea of having AI or having Claude or ChatGPT or whatever give me a scenario, and I will go into how I would react to that scenario 3 years ago as a non or as a psychopath individual, and how I would react today as a somebody who does not drink. Okay, so that's a great segue actually into our next segment here. Don't know what it's going to be called yet, but basically, I am going to have Claude give me a scenario, and I'm going to tell you how I would react as my former self, as a psychopath who got hammered 24/7, and how I would react now as somebody who does not drink. So I plugged that into Claude, and here's what it gave me. So here's the scenario. Friday, 6 p.m. You just got a call that your flight tomorrow morning got moved up 3 hours. You now have to be at the airport by 5 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. You'd already made plans to go to a friend's birthday dinner tonight, and you were looking forward to it. How would you have handled this back when you were drinking? How would you handle it now? Okay, so here's the breakdown. It's 6 p.m. You're supposed to be on a flight tomorrow morning. It just got moved up 3 hours. So instead of having to be at the airport at 8 a.m., you now have to be at 5, and you were supposed to go to a friend's birthday dinner tonight. I can let you know off rip right now that if I had a flight that was supposed to be at 8 a.m. already to begin with, that I would already have started drinking. I would already have started drinking. I don't care what time it is. It could be 8 a.m. the day before, and I would have already been drinking for that 8 a.m. flight. 100%. I always, when I was drinking, I would realistically show up to an airport probably 3 hours before the flight, minimum, maybe 4. And that had nothing to do with dad mentality of trying to get to the airport early. It had everything to do with me just wanting to get absolutely firecrackered at the TGI Fridays. And so if I had an 8 a.m. flight, I would have gone in there lit up, because most of the places wouldn't have been open already. I feel like most bars at airports open, and I would have already had to have had a few beverages going in there, but I probably would have been drinking long before that. So I would have been lit up at my friend's birthday party one way or another. But so realistically, if I was drinking, I would have gotten all messed up at my friend's birthday dinner, and I would have just continued to stay up and ripped it up until 4 o'clock in the morning when I actually had to be at the airport. Now in my life, I would 100% just cancel going to the birthday party and gone to bed at 8 p.m. because realistically, I probably wouldn't have even gone to the birthday dinner anyway, even if I didn't have a flight, just because I'm not super into all that these days. I'm not trying to go to a birthday dinner. I'm really not. Call me a curmudgeon, call me antisocial, whatever. I just like being in my little cocoon that I've built in my little thing, and the majority of the time, yeah. Unless the birthday party is at Benihana, in which case I will attend for sure. At that point, I think really in my non-drinking era, I think it matters most where the birthday party is more so than who it's with or whatever. But yeah, so I really think now the situation scenario becomes a moot point just because I do so little in general anyway. But basically, the moral of that story being like if I was drinking, I would just stay up all night and continue to get fucked up and just show up at the airport questioning whether or not they're going to let me on the flight. Whereas now, I just probably wouldn't have even gone to the friend's birthday party to begin with. Let's see if it can give us another scenario here. Alrighty, working on it. Here's another one. You're at a work happy hour. Somebody you don't know well hands you a drink they bought you before you had a chance to say anything, and then 10 minutes later loudly asks in front of the group, "Wait, you're not drinking that?" Question mark. Same format if used. Okay, so let me just re-look into this. So I'm a little confused here. So it's saying you're at a work happy hour. Somebody you don't know well hands you a drink they bought you before you even had a chance to say anything. And then 10 minutes later loudly asks in front of the group, wait, comma, you're not drinking that? Question mark. So basically, I think what it's asking is it's presenting you a situation where this person is trying to make you feel awkward for not drinking the beverage that they just bought you without asking whether or not you wanted it to begin with. Okay, so yeah, that I'm picking up what they're putting down here. So basically, what it's asking is somebody who you don't know really all that well, without asking, buys you a drink, comes up and expects you to drink it because they bought it for you. They're expecting you to drink it. You don't know this person. You don't know the drink. You don't know whatever. So of course you're not going to drink it. When I was drinking, that sentence never would have been said. I would have finished the entirety of the thing before they even handed it to me. I would have Hoover vacuumed it from 5 feet away. You know what I'm saying? And so they would have never asked that question. Wait, you're not drinking that? Question mark. That would have never been, I would have asked them for another 5 minutes before they even thought of buying me one. But now that I'm not drinking, if somebody handed me a drink that I didn't ask for and they were expecting me to drink it, and then in front of people trying to like embarrassingly make a fool out of me and say, wait, you're not going to drink that, I would double down and do some crazy shit. Because here's the thing a lot of people don't know about me. I'm a psychopath one way or another. Drink, not drink. Drug, not drug. I'm a crazy person. And I would do, if somebody tried to fuck with me while I was sober and I had my head on my shoulders and they were like, you're not going to drink that, I would, in front of everybody, take off all my clothes and tell that person I'm going to murder their whole family or some shit like that. I would do some don't try and call me out in front of people for some shit that you just, I hate it when people bring situations upon people and they force this shit, they try and make shit happen, and then they do some stuff like that. So yeah, you're not going to call me out like that. I would probably throw the beverage and then start some sort of online campaign slandering your legacy, everything. I would go after it. I'm pretty vindictive when it comes to that sort of stuff. So yeah, I would go pretty hard. Let's do one more here. Alrighty. It's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. You had a genuinely bad day, a blow up with your partner, or a gut punch email from your boss, and the apartment is quiet. Nobody would know either way what you did for the next hour. Huh. Oh boy. That leaves a lot of room for people lesser than I to say some crazy shit, but I'm not going to. Okay? I'm not going to. Okay, it's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. You had a genuinely bad day and the apartment is quiet. 3 years ago, I'm burning it down with gasoline, physically burning it down in every way. A bad day, a good day, an okay day, it really all ended the same. But if it was a bad day, it would just give me more of an excuse to do some crazy shit. So yeah, I'm burning it all to the ground and then probably cranking hog. Burning it down would take 5 minutes, and then the remaining 55 minutes would be spent rubbing raw, good sir. Yeah. Now that I'm not drinking, if I have a bad day and the apartment is quiet, to be honest with you, I'll probably just call my mom, and, my mom is not like me, so she'll give me some advice that will probably make me feel pretty bad about myself, and then, yeah. Nowadays, I eat my feelings, so it's mostly sweets, but I'm such a psychopath and I work out, I never show it, but yeah, I eat like a madman. The sweets thing is my drug of choice, for sure. Crumble cookies, and God help me, my wife is like an all-star baker, so she just makes the craziest shit. But yeah. Yeah, I eat it away. I cry and eat it away. I'm an emotional person. Sue me, okay? Call me crazy if you want. All right, folks, that is going to transition us into our final segment here. We touched on it the last time on this podcast, but I kind of wanted to go into it because it was fun. But we had somebody commented that my shit was like the worst. It sucked. Everybody hates it. Nobody likes it. The stereotypical online comment. And I thought it might be fun to go into a bunch of those kinds of comments. And so I had Claude go through all of my Instagram videos and find what it believed to be the most negative comments that I had on my page. And we're going to go through the top 5, let's say. Okay, here we go. Okay. So this person says, the craziest part of this story is having a celebration of life for somebody who died of an overdose at a bar. You people are disgusting. I hate everything about this video. I love it. I love it. I'm not going to say this person's name, but nice one, brother. Nice one. Yeah, I agree. I am the worst. Okay, this person said, why is an opera singer in prison in the first place? This video is stupid. So an opera singer was in the prison in the first place for that time. He was evading arrest. I ran from the police and got clotheslined. And that's why an opera singer. Opera singers run from the police too, okay? Don't discriminate. What? I'm not on stage all the time. I'm not singing an Italian aria at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. There's some days I wake up and run from the police. And that just so happened to be that day, okay? This person said, why does he have a receding mustache? We're going to take a second here. We're going to take a second here. Yeah. So I don't even really know how to assess that comment. I don't know what that means. How is this receding? Am I missing something here, folks? It's not receding. You're receding. Okay. This person said, who told you that one nostril is supposed to be 1 inch higher on your face than the other one? God did. God did. This person said, does this dude wear white makeup under his eyes? I'm so confused. I get a lot of those comments. Somebody said that I have reverse bags under my eyes or whatever, like reverse, like black eyes. Reverse black eyes. Is he saying black eyes or black eyes? Let's see here. This person said, are you hurting for content? Because this shit sucks. Nope, not quite yet. This person said, you can afford a cleaning lady, question mark? Yeah, it was like $40, which probably should have been my red flag. Somebody said, I'll take things that never happened for $9,200, Alex. Somebody commented on somebody else's comment and roasted them. They said, sorry, Karen, apparently you started this interaction, but that's what people like you do. No life, no husband, and no children. Life for you is making comments on other people's posts. Good luck finding a husband. Damn, dude. She went straight like 1950s American woman. Just good luck finding a husband. Ain't never gonna find no man with the comments like that. It's like all this woman cares about is finding that man. This person says, did you shave your mustache with a straight blade or are you just retarded? Yeah. Okay, we're going to end on this one here, folks. This person says, did you shave your mustache with a straight blade or are you just retarded? So, yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we have going on in the comment section of a Davis James video. A lot of love. A lot of love. All heart coming from the comment section. And yeah, so that's what I wake up to every morning, folks. I get probably 6 to 10 of those a day, and they keep the train moving. They keep the engine alive. It's what fuels us here at the Davis James Show, and hopefully by the next time I talk to you, I'll have received at least 6 to 10 more of those, and the old gas tank will be full. But folks, that's going to be it for us today here on the Davis James Show. Call me crazy with Davis James. I appreciate you being here, and in the meantime, until the next episode, please keep sending me those stories. I want to hear more from you. We're going to be here. I'm going to be prepping for the next show. So please send me everything that you have and want to share, and we will see you next time on episode 5 of Call Me Crazy with Davis James. Thank you guys for being here.